Welcome, dear students. It's Mr. Chunga again with the BAS Mother Tongue Literacy and Development presentation for 2020. Dear students, it's very important that these slides or these presentations are studied together with your study guides. That way, it's much easier for you to identify key concepts. If you can find them in the study guide, then you'll have key words that you search information with, and that will limit the instances in the exam where you are not able to connect the content that you have with the key words that are used in questions. In our presentation, first of all, about the presentation, it will guide you on key issues in this course. Like I said, study together with your study guide. Also acquaint yourself with question verbs in your study guide. My contact details still remain the same. You can contact me between 16:30 to 20 hours during the week. The first topic that we're going to look at is National Policy on Mother Tongue Instruction. This in Namibia has been the in topic, like current affair topic, where we are training. I think you are aware of the fact that we're training teachers in different mother tongues. All right. So what does that mean? It means that we have a policy that introduces other languages other than English as mother tongues. Okay. So what do we mean by mother tongue instruction? What we mean is that during the period that the children are taught in school, the language that is used to communicate content is the mother tongue. So in other words, most of us, English is our second language. My mother tongue is Silozi, Subia Silozi in schools. Oshindonga, there are other people whose mother tongue is Oshindonga, Osherero, Shkwanyama, Khoi Kovab, and a lot more in Namibia, Afrikaans also. So what we are saying is that the policy says that if a person speaks Silozi at home, that means that they should have Silozi as a mother tongue in school, and then another language, a second language, which in most cases is English. I've seen other children that have, for example, English first language as mother tongue, and they could choose another language as maybe Afrikaans or so that they see fit to be their second language. Now, what does the policy say? It is very important that the learners acquire a foundation for literacy in the language and language learning through listening, speaking, and preparatory reading activities. 2 language subjects from grade 1 to grade 10. So in other words, in grade 1, 2, and 3, they should have 2 language subjects. And as far as possible, at least 1 language on a first language level. You can't have both on second language or both on first language. You need to have 1 on first, and the other one on second. All learners take English as second language. The other language subject for the great majority of learners will be the mother tongue. In a multi-language schools, or in multi-language schools, mother tongue language classes will be constituted where there's a sufficient number of learners in a mother tongue, that is 30 in primary. So what does that mean? What it means is that if you are a school in Windhoek, right? Then you have only 3 in a class. You only have 3 children whose mother tongue is Silozi. It means that you've got a reason not to run a Silozi mother tongue class because there are only 3. So the requirement says at least 30 in primary school. Mother tongue instruction will be in the best interest of the learners, especially in the first 3 grades of school. However, the policy leaves room for misinterpretation by stating that grades 1 to 3 be taught either through the home language, a local language, or English. So in other words, if you are a slowly speaking child that finds yourself in Omuthia, for example, you will be required to start learning Oshindonga, because that is the local language. Or if there are enough learners to form up an English class, then they can also form an English class. That is what you find in cosmopolitan towns like Windhoek. You have, because of the variety of children coming from different language groups, then they can have the medium of instruction as English as of grade 1. The choice of the medium of instruction is therefore decentralized. What do we mean by decentralized? That means it's decided at the school level, not by the ministry, because the school principal is the one that knows the ground, the situation on the ground. And some schools in urban areas are opting for English as a medium of instruction from grade 1, like I said, because the children come from different language backgrounds. Then children's literature. We need to emphasize the importance of children's literature. Children must read storybooks. Why? Because it provides children with ample opportunities for the following. First of all, they respond to literature and develop their own opinions about a topic. Literature is about generating opinions. It's about interpreting what you read. So when they read something, it just stimulates their thinking, that they are able to generate these opinions about what they read. They also learn about their own cultural heritage and the cultures of other people. If they are reading something that has to do with culture, they can see how that culture compares to their own. So they will be able to understand that there are different ways of cultural practices that are different from their own. Help learners develop emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence, in most cases, is very, very important, because the ability to empathize, that means put yourself in somebody else's shoes, is only done if you are trained from childhood in literature to think about situations that characters get in, and whether you identify with them or whether you would do something if you were in that situation, or whether you would do something to help if you were there. It encourages creativity. That means they are able to think. Like we said, the other post-story reading activities, that they draw characters and so on. That is creativity. It fosters personality and social development. In other words, it builds them as people. It builds their social development, or it aids their social development. It also helps them develop into caring, intelligent, and friendly people. Literature can foster social development by encouraging learners to accept other people and their differences. It also encourages learners to develop relationships with people, encouraging social contact. It can also contribute to the creation of possible, successful, and caring individuals. Now, as we teach, we also need to make our teaching input, or what we teach, more comprehensible. Comprehensible meaning understandable to the learners. In other words, we as teachers are high up here, but the people that we teach are low there, so we need to get to their level. How do we do that? Okay, first of all, we need to show pictures or visuals with new vocabulary words and communicative concepts. So we should be in a habit of attaching pictures to new words, so that the children can, relate a word to a picture. In history, for example, pictures of the ships, when teaching about Christopher Columbus. We have, in history, we have, a part of the exploration of the world. So the ship would mean moving from one continent to another. So it's very important that these become part of their mental pictures when they learn about the history of exploration or discoveries of the new worlds, so-called new worlds, and so on. Words in English with the pictures they represent. If we teach them new words, let's put those pictures together with the words. We need also to incorporate gestures, drama, and music into lessons. So if they do it through rhythms, music, when they act out situations, they will remember. All right. Design lessons with hands-on activities and manipulatives. For example, science and math are ideal subjects to incorporate hands-on activities and manipulatives. In a math class, the teacher can demonstrate the concept of perimeter and area by having learners place a string along different sections of a grid paper. Repeat new vocabulary in the following ways. Games where learners place the written vocabulary word on the corresponding picture. You have the words written on papers, you have pictures, then they match them. Write the word as the teacher holds up the picture. Board games such as Trivial Pursuit, Vocabulary, Scrabble, Boggle, and Hangman. All these are board games that are aimed at building vocabulary. Computer-assisted lessons that incorporate the new vocabulary is also very important. Then translation. When the second language group is homogeneous, the teacher can quickly translate key concepts to make the lesson comprehensible. So if you have a group of learners that speak the same mother tongue, you can always translate the key words or key concepts to their language so that they understand them better. Then hearing and listening. Many times we confuse the two. We always think that when we hear, we are listening, or also that when we're listening, we are hearing. Hearing is simply the act of perceiving sound by the ear. So it's biological. Everybody that has the ability, the hearing sense, can hear. Okay? If you're not hearing impaired, hearing simply happens. All right? Listening, however, is something you consciously choose to do. When you listen, you need to make a decision that you are going to listen. And you identify what it is that you want to listen to. Listening requires concentration so that your brain processes meaning from words and sentences. Listening leads to learning. So this is what we do in class. The children don't hear in class, they listen. Hearing is physiological. Physiological means biological. It's just the fact that we have a hearing organ, then we hear. Listening is an intellectual one, requiring interpretation, analysis, integration, and evaluation. Then the syllabus guidelines for assessing listening skills in senior primary. We listen to and comprehend information. So we listen and we also understand the information. We recognize and follow instructions and deductions. Recognize a speaker's main points or ideas and identify the supporting details. So if a speaker is saying something, we should in the end be able to say, these are the 5 points that he made. These are the examples that he made to illustrate these points. Comprehend feelings, intentions, emotions, attitudes of speakers or texts. So in other words, apart from the words that come from, how are they said? Are they said with feeling? What kind of feelings comes out of what is being said? Is it persuasive? Is it one that requires us to feel sympathy, sad, or what kind of feelings permeate through what we are listening to? Then we also need to comprehend feelings, intentions. This is just repeated, the point that is repeated. Key elements of active listening. When we listen, there are a number of things that we need to do. First of all, we need to pay attention. How do we pay attention? How do we show that we're paying attention? We give the speaker your individual, undivided attention. Recognize non-verbal communication. There is language that comes through other ways other than just the spoken word. Look at the speaker and put aside distracting thoughts. You need to focus. Don't mentally prepare a rebuttal. Don't be thinking about when this person says this, I'm also going to say this, because they haven't said it yet. So this is where we always misconstrue or we misinterpret what we hear because we already have premeditated thoughts about what is going to be said. Ignore environmental factors. For example, side conversation with a friend that is sitting next to you, you listen to the speaker's body language. That is very important. You should also show that you are listening by using your own body language and gestures to convey your attention. Nodding occasionally, smiling and using other facial expressions, noting your posture and making sure it is open and inviting, encouraging the speaker to continue with small verbal comments like yes, Then you provide feedback. Personal filters, assumptions, judgments, and beliefs can distort what we hear. Reflect on what has been said by paraphrasing. What I'm hearing is, sounds like you are saying, are great ways to reflect back. Ask questions to clarify certain points. What do you mean when you say this? Summarize the speaker's comments periodically. So in other words, when you give feedback, you are saying to the listener, this is what I hear you say, okay? And confirm it from them. Defer judgment. Avoid interrupting. It's a waste of time and frustrates the speaker. Limits full understanding of the message. So give the speaker ample time to make their point. Don't interrupt them. Allow the speaker to finish each point before asking questions. Don't interrupt with counter arguments. I find this very important for all of us as teachers and also for learners, because even as teachers we also need to listen to our children. Then respond appropriately. Active listening is a model for respect and understanding. So if you listen actively, you also you accord respect to the speaker. Be candid, that's honest in your response. Assert your opinions respectfully. Assert, that means even if you disagree, say it in a respectful manner. Treat the other person in a way that you think he or she would want you to be, should want to be treated. So every time you respond, keep the levels of respect high. Then basic speaking competencies for senior primary. We expect them at senior primary, or learners at senior primary, to ask for and give information, directions, instructions, and demonstrations in an appropriate manner. Communicate experiences, feelings, and opinions. So if they don't want to sit on a chair that is maybe somehow broken, and tears their cloth, they should be able to stand up and say why they can't sit on that chair. Okay, how do they feel about the way others behave in class? Can they communicate their experiences on the way to school? If there is something that makes them unease, use appropriate vocabulary to give descriptions on a particular topic. The words and what they want to mean should always correspond. Apply common courtesy conventions in stimulated situations. Common courtesy conventions, that means follow the way things are done. For example, if they greet a teacher, there are courtesies, ma'am, sir. If they want to leave class, there are courtesies that should be there in terms of asking for permission to leave class. They don't just stand up and go, or they don't say it in a way as if they were commanding a teacher. Interact meaningfully and critically, using appropriate vocabulary in social, cultural, and academic contexts. They should be able to make a meaningful contribution to the class, but they should also be able to think critically about issues that they talk about. Then how to support learners with speech difficulty. First of all, it's very common now to have speech difficulties among learners. All we need to do is that we need to be supportive. Learners with speech difficulties become self-conscious. They are aware of the fact that they are not at the level where they are supposed to be. So they will be very much uncomfortable about speaking. So that's why we need to support them. The more nervous they are, the more difficult it will be for them to speak. So if we make them nervous, if we're not supportive enough, it will make them nervous. And if it makes them nervous, then they will not want to speak. Always encourage them. If they start therapy, be supportive and interested in the process. Make them feel accepted and loved. So when they come to the class, show them that love and assure them that you are there for them. Then you also need to be patient, allow them to talk. Even if it takes a stuttering learner 10 minutes to finish a sentence, please give them that time. Listen patiently, resist the urge to finish their sentence for them. Don't finish their sentence, let them finish. Start and finish. All you need to be is just be patient and give them time. Ask questions and express interest in their answers. Also, try to slow down the way that you speak, so that they imitate, they model you. If you speak more slowly, it not only makes it easier for them to hear the way that you speak, it also makes them feel better about speaking slowly themselves. So they will think there's nothing wrong in taking their time to finish a sentence. Then set an example by speaking properly yourself. It will help learners if you pay attention to your own pronunciation. Try to avoid excessive slang. Rather than making them repeat things all the time, repeat what they have said back to them so that they can hear it said properly. If a child cannot say something properly, after they've said it, say it in a proper manner so that they can model you. Creating a rubric for assessing speaking. It's very important that we assess speaking. But how do we create a rubric? A marking grid for that. First of all, we need to look at the criteria on which we want to grade our learners. Then we will have on the left-hand side of our paper, we can list them along the left side of the paper. That's left-hand margin of the paper. Then create an even number of columns along the top of the page. Okay? Let's begin with maybe 4, which is the easiest to start with, if this is your first rubric. These columns will represent potential skills levels of your learners. For each criterion, define what level of the ability a learner at each of the 4 levels would exhibit. For example, the most straightforward way to label the boxes on the rubric would be meets expectations high, meets expectations low, slightly underperforms, does not meet expectations. So that is on top. Okay. Then as we evaluate each learner, determine at which level he or she is performing. Then take the average level among the criteria and you have an objective grade which suggests for areas in which your learners can improve. These, for example, would be a grid: eye contact, enthusiasm, preparedness and organization, speaks clearly, knowledge of content. So then from there, always has eye contact with the audience. Most of the time, sometimes does not have. So you can always tick the box where the child fits. This is just an example that I think you can even be able to use in your class. Then stories and storytelling. And development of positive character traits in learners. When we tell them stories, it's very important that we are aware of the fact that there are certain values, traits that we impart in them in terms of their character development. Remember, stories always punish evil and promotes good. So first of all, stories can impart values and information to make sense of life. Values and information to make sense of life. They also solve problems we want to know the answer to and provide resolutions that give us hope. So if a character, for example, is meeting adversities, problems in life, there might be a solution in the story. And the fact that there's a solution, it gives us hope. So the children can learn to be hopeful. Help us to discern what is right from wrong. Morality, okay? Morality is also very important. Tolerance, appreciation of difference and commonality. differences and similarities. How we are different from others should be appreciated. How we are similar to the others should be appreciated. So we need to tolerate that. Then paragraph writing, very important that at this level we already start, making our children understand that a paragraph contains of one idea, and all the information that's written in that paragraph should support that idea. There are situations in which we begin a new paragraph. One is that when we begin a new idea or point, or when we contrast information or ideas. If we have written something in a paragraph and we want to contrast it, in the next paragraph we introduce a new paragraph. When your readers need a pause, when we think that we've given too much information and we need to pause a little, it's very important that we start a new paragraph. When you are ending your introduction or starting your conclusion, a conclusion or introduction cannot be part of the body parts or the body paragraphs. Your introductory and concluding material should always be in a new paragraph. So that's very important. These are ways in which we start a new paragraph. So our children need to understand already when they should begin a new paragraph. Not just because they've written too long, then they just skip in the middle of a sentence, they skip a line and continue. Phonetics versus phonology. Phonetics, sound systems in general, the description and classification of speech sounds, particularly how sounds are produced, transmitted, and received. Whereas phonology is a sound system for a specific language, the study of the speech sounds used in a particular language. Parts of speech. Parts of speech, these are word groups that we always use whenever we speak. The first group that we're going to look at is the pronoun. Pronouns are used instead of a noun. These are words like it, she, he. Verbs, action words in a statement. Some verbs link the subject to a noun or pronoun. E.g. sit is an action word. Is, he is sick, for example, just links the subject to a noun. All right. Adjectives. Adjectives modifies or makes more exact the meaning of a noun or pronoun. E.g., we can have, for example, cars parked, maybe about 4 cars, but then it's not enough to just say the car. Go to the car and get me a Bible. It's not enough because there are 4 cars that are parked there. So how do I then make specific the one that I mean? I could be saying the red car. If there are 2 red cars, then I need to find another way to qualify this car that I'm talking about. Okay? Maybe the red car with big rims. Big is also an adjective. Adverb, these are words that modifies verbs. An adjective, another adverb. For example, we can say beautifully. She said beautifully. Or we can say a very beautiful car. All right, and conjunctions. A conjunction is a connector, a coordinate conjunction connect words or groups of words that are grammatically the same. For example, for, and, nor, but, yet, and so. Then personal pronouns, types of pronouns, very important. Personal pronouns, these are pronouns that take the place of specific names or persons. Pronouns like she, it, and he. Then we have another group that is called reflexive pronouns. These are formed by adding self or selves as a suffix. Myself, ourselves, yourself, himself, herself, itself, and themselves. These are reflexive because they point back to the one that, or to the subject of the sentence. Demonstrative, these are pronouns that we can use to show things. For example, this, that, those, these are all way of demonstrating as to what we mean or what we are talking about. Then indefinite pronouns, pronouns that refer to people or things in general, like the demonstrative pronouns, they can be used as adjectives: another day, both animals, many weeks. Relative and interrogative pronouns, these are words like who, whose, whom, that, which, and what are called relative pronouns. So they are, in other words, they are interrogative in the sense that they are used as questions, but relative, that they also refer to the subject. So basically, that is the end of our presentation for today, and I wish you all the best in your endeavors for the year, especially our 3 exams and the assignments that you will do in 2020. Thank you very much.